ingrained and influential in this community.
I got home yesterday, didn't know anything other than hearing things on the news about the border. Saw that their driveway was filled up with all these cars, and I'm like, oh, they're having Christmas or Thanksgiving early. And it's like, that's really nice. And then about an hour later, I heard the news, and I'm like, oh my God.
They were regarded as very good neighbors and kind friends.
It's really shock and devastation, and it's just gut-wrenching, really, really. They were so loved, generous, and kind, and always willing to help, plowing everybody's driveway for the love of it, you know what I mean? Just always willing to help.
Without ever being asked, they would just be giving and gifting. And
recipients of their generous giving included the Boys and Girls Clubs of Niagara Falls and the North Towns, along with this favorite place, the Niagara Sailing Clubhouse, which was heavily damaged by a March 2021 fire, now rebuilt largely thanks to this couple's contributions through their business and personal donations.
What's up, iCkEdMeL? And we have some updates regarding this vehicle explosion that took place on Wednesday, where this vehicle by the border of the U.S. and Canada border by New York, this vehicle hits a median. It seemed like it was driving 100 miles an hour, goes airborne in the air and like turns into a ball of fire, hits this booth and like explodes. Very dramatic situation. And so the family has been identified. This is Kurt Villani. This was the driver of the vehicle. He was driving with his wife, Monica. They're both 53 years old. It's reported that they were heading to a KISS concert. Now, there's some weird details about this story because it's reported that they were driving a $300,000 Bentley. Okay. And not only that, so they apparently reported to friends that they had been complaining about the gas pedal on this vehicle just weeks before the fatal crash. Kurt and his wife lived in a place called Grand Island, New York, which is about 10 miles from where the crash happened. And I even, during a live stream when we were covering this, somebody had told me that previously on one of their vehicles, not a Bentley, they had an acceleration issue where the car just started like accelerating like crazy, like they couldn't stop it, they were hitting the brake. Luckily, somehow they managed to get out of that situation. And the reporter said that Bentley hadn't commented, but I was sent this article where Bentley did comment on it, and they said that authorities had not reached out to them yet, which I thought was interesting. This person, Erin Broner, a spokeswoman for the American arm of Bentley Motors, said that the authorities had not reached out yet, but she maintained that the Villani's car would not be tied to a recall in 2021 over a risk that their accelerator pedals could become stuck, which only applied to older right-hand drive models not sold in the US or Canada. So one of the previous models did have some sort of acceleration, one of the previous years, I guess. This one apparently doesn't. And according to the New York Post, they say that this was a new $300,000 Bentley, which they say, preliminary investigation so far, they say no terroristic stuff. Which, if you were following that live stream when we were covering everything as it was happening, I think it was Fox that had like these sources, right, that said that, all these explosions were found or explosives were found and there was nothing apparently found. So who is that source, right? Like who, because they would completely lose all credibility with me.
Alexis McAdams is reporting that according to high-level police sources, the explosion was an attempted terrorist attack. A lot of explosives in the vehicle at the time. The two people who were in the car.
Also, if it's the acceleration thing, which apparently was a thing with the older previous model, imagine paying $300,000 for like the top of the top, right? And them having this kind of issue, which I know all cars, they have issues and stuff like that, but I couldn't imagine paying top of the line and having stuff like this. Now, another theory, okay, some of the other things that avenues that maybe they're looking into is they were saying that investigators are obviously also looking into the possibility that Villani could have had a medical episode, leaving him to lose control with his foot on the accelerator, but there's no confirmation of that. Now, that's really interesting because the other day I saw this crazy video. I wanted to share with you guys. I don't know that I can, though. I have to see because there was a bus driver and he's driving and this guy has a heart attack. There's literally a camera pointed at him. So you're looking at him. He's normal 1 second and the next minute, he's just like unconscious. And the bus starts to kind of like lose control, starts accelerating. Luckily, there's a kid on that bus that got up and got to the wheel and like got on the brake and was able to stop the bus and like save those kids. So that's a possibility too, I guess. But you remember the witness though? There was this witness that was giving all these details, and he said that the car started accelerating really, really fast, and that it actually swerved because there was a vehicle in front of it. It swerved out of the way of the vehicle and like got back in.
There was a car in front of him. He swerved around it, and then it looked like he hit the fence, and this fire started, and then all of a sudden he went up in the air, and then it was a ball of fire like 30, 40 feet high. I've never seen anything like it. It was really incredible.
I don't know. Could that have been if there was a medical episode, could that have been the passenger grabbing the wheel and kind of swerving out of the way and swerving it back? You know, or could it have been him with the accelerator issue, not knowing what to do? And I just wanted to add these two tidbits before we get to some of the weird family or just ironic family history. So that morning, like I said, they were on their way to Toronto to see a Kiss concert, but that concert was canceled from frontman Paul Stanley because the guy caught the flu, which made me wonder too, like, so I guess they weren't aware. Was it canceled that very morning? Was it the night before? You know, how did they not know? And before the crash, they did visit the Seneca Niagara Resort and Casino before the crash, which is about a mile away from where the crash happened. So just another little fact to add to that. And the fact that they were, you know, going to this Kiss concert, it doesn't lead me to believe this was terroristic. So some of the family history here. The family operated Guise Lumber, which has 7 locations, including one in Niagara Falls, where Wednesday's fatal crash took place. The chain began with Villani's father, Kurt M. Villani, in 1986. In 2015, the family's business made headlines across the region when they were exonerated following a lengthy investigation by revenue authorities, I guess the IRS, in which they were found to have overpaid on some taxes rather than underpaid, as has been alleged. Interesting. Wednesday's incident was not the first time the family had a horrific crash that has claimed the life of a member of Villani family. In 1978, Villani's grandmother, Lorraine, was killed when she was flung from a boat that was traveling along Niagara River. At 3 a.m., Kurt M. and his wife, Gail Villani, were also on board at the time but were unharmed. The boat struck a bridge while Lorraine Villani was at the helm. The family later successfully sued the company that built the bridge after it was found to not have been properly illuminated for $120,000 in 1984. Online records show that the Villani family owns a range of properties in the Grand Island area. And maybe you're wondering how people are receiving it, at least on Twitter. Larry here says, you would think if you were having issues with a gas pedal on a 300K car, you would have taken it in. It doesn't add up to me. I'm not sure I believe the media or their story. Somebody else here said, Juanita, the question is, was there a problem with the accelerator and did they take it for repair beforehand? If so, and it was not fixed, the couple may end up owning Bentley. It's wild how MSM goes from instant terrorism claim to we don't know and to it was an accident. So some people are just thinking the family's fabricated, not real. CIA admits to having the ability to control people's vehicles. I don't know. My thoughts. Well, a couple of thoughts. Well, I've expressed some already throughout this video. It's strange. It's odd. You know, it doesn't seem like they're struggling financially. To them having complained to their friends weeks before, I wonder, as they said on Twitter, has this been taken in for repairs, or were they kind of ignoring this, hoping it would go away? And why would they do so? Acceleration issues, that is pretty serious. I wonder how bad of an acceleration issue. Would it just randomly accelerate on its own? You know, people run into car problems and it can be really tricky, especially finances. If they don't have the finances and they're trying to make ends meet or whatever, this obviously doesn't seem like that kind of situation. You know, I recently had an issue with my car where this was a couple months back. The brakes stopped working. Like I came back from the zoo. I met a friend at the zoo. I was with my daughter. Everything was fine. I never had this problem before. Got on the highway to come back home, get off the highway. Thankfully, I was like a few minutes from my house, literally like around the corner from the house where I went to go hit the brake, and the car doesn't brake. Like I'm putting it all the way down. There's no resistance. It just goes all the way down. I'm like, what the F? Like, what is this? You know what I'm saying? Thankfully, it ended up coming to a stop because I was about to do the emergency brake. Thankfully, there was no cars. But, you know, I was able to go home because I was right around the corner. And I had the car towed to the mechanic shop, whatever. They fixed it. But I ended up having some different issues with the car a couple of weeks after. I ended up having to change vehicles. Like, I had to get a different vehicle because I couldn't take that risk, you know, with my daughter and all that stuff. Stuff like that, you know, you just can't play around with. I don't believe there's a conspiracy, but, you know, there was a lot of businesses that they did own, which is pretty interesting. And the whole IRS thing, I don't think somebody would try to take them out for that. And the thing about that is that I'm almost wondering if we will ever know the truth, because they said that car blew up to like smithereens, like pieces everywhere. And how would they even be able to come to the conclusion? I don't know what the condition that their bodies are found in, but it doesn't sound like there's good. I don't know how much, you know, like their organs and stuff. Like, will they even be able to do any kind of test? You know, will we ever even be able to find out? Maybe if they're somehow able to access the vehicles, like if the computer or whatever survived, maybe they can diagnose it and at least be like, okay, there wasn't a vehicle issue, so the only thing they could deduce is like maybe some sort of medical thing, and that would just be a guess. It's a really strange, odd story.
Here at our track, we're going to demonstrate to you what you should do, and more importantly, what you shouldn't do if you're ever in this unfortunate situation. If you find that your car is accelerating hard, even after you've taken your foot off the gas pedal, your first instinct is probably the right one. Step 1, put your foot on the brake firmly and don't lift off. It's extremely important not to lift your foot off the brake, even briefly, because if the throttle is fully stuck open, you're not creating any vacuum. What that means is the power brakes aren't going to work after you lift your foot off the brake and press again. So that brings us to step 2. With your foot still firmly on the brake pedal, put the car into neutral.
And I think people's natural instinct would probably be to pump the brake, you know? So they say now put it in neutral. I read somebody, I think on Twitter, say this.
Step 2. With your foot still firmly on the brake pedal, put the car into neutral. This disengages the engine and allows you to stop quickly and safely. And don't worry about the engine revving, because all modern cars, they have rev limiters and they'll protect themselves. Step 3. After you've pulled to the side of the road and stopped the car safely, now shut the engine off. Now, some people might think it's wise to turn the engine off while you're still driving the car. There's a problem with that, because you're going to wind up losing power steering in a lot of cars. That can make the car difficult to control. Plus, it doesn't help you. Putting the car in neutral, it's going to stop you just as quickly as if you shut your engine off. While this doesn't seem that complicated, most people have never actually put their car into neutral and may not even know where to find it. Some of the modern shifters, well, they're complicated. There's different ways to get in.
And I was reading to like this article, they were saying to, where was it? Over here, they were saying to put your foot on the brake pedal, not the gas pedal, and press down as hard as you can. Do not pump the brake, as these actions could lead to a rollover accident. If their brakes have failed, which I wonder in this situation, right? Like what happened? Did they try to use the brake? Could lead to a rollover accident. You can gently apply the emergency brake to slow the vehicle. That's the other thing. So I don't know what happens if, like, I mean, I guess, you know, pulling the emergency brake when you're going really fast, I guess it just brings it to a halt. I'm going to share one more story. And, you know, some of these vehicles, too, they have, like, their emergency brake as a button on, like, a completely different place in the front of you. I've always been so used to, like, the emergency brake being right there with it, you know, the shifting of the gears or the park, drive, whatever. I'm used to it being right there. So these emergency brake buttons, to me, they're almost kind of like hidden off on the side where you wouldn't even think to, and especially in an emergency situation. I don't know, like this weird, especially if you're used to the older cars. But I'm gonna share one more story. This person here, Sparky Joint, says 6 months ago my Chevy Equinox kept accelerating even in neutral after punching it to pass a slow driver. As I was approaching 100 miles an hour at the end of a freeway, I had to use all 3 brakes just to skid to a stop before dying. Just today, I replaced the accelerator pedal module after it crapped out, so I hope that was the cause of the unwanted acceleration and recent loss of power / low RPMs. It drives again with no warning lights, but I haven't tried opening it up on a freeway yet. I want to test it, but I don't want to involuntarily accelerate to get on the freeway. Man, that's scary. And somebody else here says, excellent question. I'd like to know the answer because it happened to me and my 3 kids and 3 nieces 30 years ago. Wow, that's a long time. And today I'm having a similar problem and I still don't know how to disengage the car if it were to do what it happened then. Yeah, I don't know really what the answer is. I guess like they said, maybe some people in the comments that know about vehicles and stuff. I mean, we read, I guess, hit the brake. I don't know if the brake's not helping or it is helping or whatever. Don't pump it, which, like, I don't know, instinctually I might try to pump it if it's not working. You're freaking out, but don't pump it. Throw it into neutral, and hopefully that works. And if that doesn't work, then my next thought would be emergency brake. Maybe my first thought would be an emergency brake. I don't know. So anyway, yeah, take care, you guys. Comment down below. Let me know your thoughts. Hit the like button, subscribe, turn on the bell notifications. Take care, and peace. Be safe.